Jambo Africa, hello good people of Africa and of the world at large. Thank you. It's another rendezvous of your informative, of your discursive program. It is Global Inside, brought to you by Globals in collaboration with Panafrican TV. And today we are asking the question, can Brics countries practically ignite global reforms, reforms in governance, reforms in diplomacy, reforms in geopolitics, economic dynamics for the benefits of the mankind under the auspices of the global south. However, this with this drive, the challenges are actually very enormous. In an increasingly multipolar society, the BRICS grouping, comprising traditionally Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, and which has extended to include Egypt, Ethiopia, Indonesia, Iran, and the United Arab Emirates, have emerged or has emerged as a significant player in shaping global governance and economic paradigms. The recent 17th BRICS summit in Rio de Janeiro in Brazil, however, highlighted the bloc's commitment to advocating for the global south and reforming long-standing international structures that many perceive in today's world as inequitable. As global dynamics shift with the external pressures such as rising tariffs, particularly from the United States of America, and we have also military tensions which are escalating, the question arises if BRICS can practically ignite meaningful reforms on the global stage. Notably, a report in 2024 noted that BRICS collectively reached a 4% GDP growth, while worldwide growth stood at 3.3%. The International Monetary Fund (IMF) data also revealed that BRICS accounted for 40% of the global economy, which according to the same report was measured by purchasing power parity PPP in 2024, with projections rising to 41% in the year 2025. Positive indicators for BRICS. First, by focusing on multilateralism, sustainable development, and innovative governance, BRICS aims to establish an alternative to Western hegemony. However, internal divisions among member states and also the complexities of unifying device interests present enormous or formidable challenges. Global Insight thus they will therefore dive into the potential of BRICS to catalyze global reforms while examining geopolitical strategies, diplomatic initiatives, and economic alignment that could redefine international relations. Of course, this is Global Insight. Let me join you just after the jingle. If you are just tuning in, you're most welcome. It is Global Insight, and the question on the table this day is, can BRICS nations practically ignite global reforms? Thank you. Straight away, we're going to uncover the panel of experts that will elucidate more on our topic for discussions this day, which came from the recent meeting or summit of BRICS nations that held in Brazil, where leaders actually reverberated or reiterated on the need for multipolarism to be practical, and the need to have alternatives in such a way that will bring about benefits to the global world. Now we are going straight away to the United States of America to salute Mr. Ashil Eke, who is an international financial expert. It is a pleasure having you this day on this edition of the Discursive Program. Mr. Eke.
Good afternoon, Clarice. Good afternoon to all the world, that are listening to this show, this program, this very important program. Thank you for the invitation, Clarice. I'm always pleased to be part of this panel. We have so much to share with the public today, and I'm glad to be part of it. Thank you so much for the invitation. Appreciate it.
Making yourself available to talk on very important issues which affect the global world, and it is timely. Being a financial expert, we are looking at how the tariffs that the Trump administration has announced on Brics nation will actually affect global politics or diplomacy. And now we go to the Republic of South Africa to meet Paseka Farumale from the University of South Africa, that is a UNISA academic and CPP member. Always a pleasure having you on this platform, Paseka.
Thank you very much, Clarice. I'm looking forward to this engagement and to seeing how we can teach and learn from each other, and also teach and learn from the rest of the continent. Thank you, Clarice.
Of course, it is for us to inform, to teach, to learn, and to unlearn, while we are advocating the African agenda on seeing how Africa can navigate well the complex international landscape. And to Ghana, let's receive Kofi Don Agu, who is President CCLG Africa Ghana EPA and AP Project Ambassador. If you're already there, you're welcome to the program. Okay, I've just been informed that they'll be joining us subsequently, ladies and gentlemen. We right off with you, Paseka Farumale. I want us to start with this preliminary question about your overview, or probably of the recent Brics summit, putting into consideration current dynamics of the organization, drawing inspiration from the just ended summit and its potential impacts on global governance.
I think this was quite a brilliant summit, and I am looking forward to how they're going to action the plans that they've put in place, specifically how they're going to be able to action an equal multipolar world. Because one of the most frustrating things about being from the continent of Africa and being a member of the Brics Union is that we want to see a change in the global dynamic. So if we are able to decenter the West, specifically the USA and NATO, then I think that we would be in a very positive position, because what would happen is that we would see where we are trying to go, and by us seeing where we are trying to go, we'd also be able to action things that we've had on paper for several years now. I think one of the more frustrating things is that as much as we are gaining a lot of traction the world over, all these countries that have been demonized over the last several years, all these countries are now coming together to be able to represent themselves. And because they're being able to represent themselves, it means that we are able to get different narratives. But I'm hoping that with those narratives, we'd be able to build a stronger, united global South. Because with a stronger, united global South, then we can start discussing and discoursing on a stronger, united global economic South. Because that, I believe, is key for Brics to move forward. But I am very excited by what has been engaged in the last few weeks, or the last few days. I am looking forward to see some action, because discourse without action becomes a wish. So thank you, Clarice.
discuss without action becomes very problematic. And in the same light with you, Mr. Ashil Eki, we want to get your own overview or impression about the Brics summit, which just ended. You're quite aware of that Russian President Vladimir Putin and even the president of China did not attend physically this meeting, and it has actually probably attracted some sort of negative analysis pertaining the position of Brics. So, what is your own overview, probably perspective, pertaining the just ended 17th Brics Summit?
Yeah, thank you very much, Clarice. I think the summit, this summit marked important, growth in Brics, because it admitted new memberships and they created a new strategic membership as well. There are some different points that they put in place that they're trying to work on, and they've made a declaration that everybody can read online about what the Brics is all about and what they're trying to do and where they're trying to go. And I think this summit, even though the different leaders of China and Russia were not there, as well as Iran and Saudi Arabia, it doesn't take away of the success of the summit, because despite the efforts from the United States, the Trump administration, to try to create frictions and create frustration between the Brics members and between the Brics members and between the Brics members and the United States. It shows that the Brics members are very united. They understand Trump's strategy using tariff to try to create tension between the different countries, and they're not allowing that to destroy their organization that is working so far very well, and that is a counter that is countering the power of the United States or the U.S. dominance in the global economy and the global trade as well.
Yeah.
So I think this is something that we need to keep working on. It's a work in progress, and what I notice is that de-dollarization is going slowly, it's going increasingly, and it's hurting seriously the United States because of the fact that we see all these people in Washington scrambling to figure out what are we going to do to unwind this de-dollarization strategy that the Brics people are bringing upon us. And so they are trying to use all different tactics, but the best strategy that the Brics have put in place that is working effectively is not creating a Brics currency. It's actually allowing member countries to use to trade in their own currency. That is where it hurts the most, because if there was one currency that the Brics was created, the U.S. will have an opportunity to find a way to disrupt that currency or to prevent it from working effectively. So what they did is to allow people with their own currency to trade amongst themselves. Therefore, they don't have a need to get the U.S. dollars, and therefore it's going to slowly de-dollarize the whole world economy.
Yeah.
And guess what? It's going to have an impact on the U.S. economy, which will bring America to a level where they can start understanding they are not the only power anymore. The world have changed. There are multipolarities now everywhere, and people want to do business with whomever they feel they have the need to do business with, without any constraints, any fear of retaliation whatsoever. So I welcome this Brics edition. I think it's a platform, it's an opportunity for the continent, for example, the African continent, to be able to find opportunities to expand, its reach, to do business with whoever they want to do business with, and so that they can grow the economy instead of selling only raw materials all the time. It's opportunity for Africa to create to industrialize and then sell their products to wherever they want to sell without the fear of retaliation from superpowers like the United States and Europe.
What is very imperative for Mr. Ashil Eki for the world or global probably superpowers to understand that narratives since from the Second World War to where we are today have actually changed, and it is an area of plurality, and subsequently we're going to understand why it is imperative for global stakeholders to give a positive connotation to international relations, international diplomacy, and what have you. I've just been informed of that Mr. Kofi Don Agbo, President CCLG Africa Ghana, EPA and AP Project Ambassador, I think that relates largely to climate change, is already with us. You're welcome, sir, and thank you for accepting to be with us this day. Let's have your own holistic analysis of the Brics Summit, pertaining the final declaration that largely touch also the aspect of climate change.
Yeah. Hello, good. Again, good afternoon to our listeners and viewers, if you can hear me.
Sure.
And thank you so much for the opportunity given to me to be part of this whole discussions as far as Brics and other bodies are concerned when it comes to a matter of international trade agreement and all other things that related to international diplomacy as well. Now, again, let me also thank other panelists who are on the show for being on time and then also contributing to this the discussions. Now, when you look at, recently all of us know that meetings of the Brics it started from the 6th to 7th of this month, and a lot of outcomes as far as discussions were concerned came out. One of the areas that, of course, I'm much interested is the climate finance, and I must indicate that that is the most important thing for me that has been discussed at the Brics level. When you see the enthusiasm and then, of course, the opportunities that could be given to countries and, for that matter, companies that will be able to make sure they get financial support to be able to contribute. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Go ahead, sir.
Okay. All right. So for me, I'm looking at the climate aspect of the whole discussions that went on, because when you look at it globally, you realize that there have not been enough support for financial input in terms of climate funding. And the global south is suffering seriously. So if Brics and, for that matter, African countries will come together and look towards the direction of raising funds within our own backyard, it will really help us to be able to fight it. Because when you look at climate impact, it affects all sectors of our economy. And that is where we should champion, or we should emphasize it more, to be able to have funding to implement an agenda or programs that will help our people to come out from the challenge. Because when you look at the International Monetary Fund, the IMF, the World Bank, the United Nations is trying to help to get some support to help people to help countries to come out from their challenges. Yeah. There not be any funding. There's no funding helping the global. So for me, I think that we can raise funds among ourselves, African people, Brics nations. We can raise funds to fight the impact of global challenges. Yeah. One issue also that came out has to do with artificial intelligence governance, which is very key. In recent times, if we are talking about globalization, we're talking about development, and we're not talking about artificial intelligence, then it means you'll be left behind. And I was very happy it was one of the prioritized areas that was discussed at the Brics conference. And for me, I think that Africans must also take advantage of this to be able to zero into what AI can help us, because AI has come and there are so many things we can do with AI that can help us to develop. If I should continue, economic cooperation was one other issue that came out, and the focus was, the strengthening economics partnership, which at the end of the day, it will reduce trade barriers and also promoting investment among BRICS nations. And I think it's very key for them to have discussed such a topic at the conference or the summit. So for me, this will be my initial comment, and I think that it is important again for Africa to look at this dimension and then come together strongly to be able to have this trade among ourselves, which at the end of the day, I mean, we are growing what we eat, and we should be able to patronize what we need. And the other speaker did indicate that the further BRICS are looking at common currency, but not using the United States dollar for a common currency, for their currency or trading. I think it's very key. And that is where the United States always, because of they claim to be the superpower, it always creates problem for other countries. So for me, I think that so far what has been discussed so far and all the things that are moving on, it's in the right direction. So this will be my initial comment. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Kofi Don Agbo, for that, holistic introductory analysis pertaining our topic for discussion. If you are just tuning in, you're most welcome, ladies and gentlemen. While we leave the preliminary question, let's look at some of these specific questions pertaining especially the present stakes regarding the imposition of trade tariffs on BRICS countries by BRICS. But before we get to you, lady and gentlemen, for your analysis, I'll invite us to listen to an excerpt of President Donald Trump, who highlighted in his excerpt that BRICS was created initially to probably counteract or to spite the United States, and he will not actually sit back and watch without doing something. Let's listen to Donald Trump, and then we'll come back right after that.
So the letters I send out are, we have made some deals. We can make a lot more deals. It's just too time consuming. It just makes it more complicated. And we can do things over the years too. We're not hard line, but it's about time the United States of America started collecting money from countries that were ripping us off and laughing behind our back at how stupid we were. Okay? Thank you.
Mr. President,
Yellow, in the yellow.
On the tariff issue, so you talked about India coming, but then a couple days ago you issued a new tariff threat to members of the BRICS countries for if they aligned with anti-American policies.
10% charge.
That would be India, Brazil.
That's right. They have to pay 10% if they're in BRICS, because BRICS was set up to hurt us. BRICS was set up to degenerate our dollar and take our dollar as the standard, take it off as the standard. And that's okay if they want to play that game, but I can play that game too. So anybody that's in BRICS is getting a 10% charge.
Is that immediate, sir? Or is
Yeah,
that
pretty soon.
If they engage in some behavior?
Well, if they're a member of BRICS, they're going to have to pay 10% tariff, just for that one thing. And they won't be a member long. I thought BRICS was, I said this about a year ago, and it largely broke up. But, there are a couple that hang around, but I thought it largely broke up. BRICS is not, in my opinion, not a serious threat. But what they're trying to do is destroy the dollar so that another country can take over and be the standard. And we're not going to lose the standard at any time. If you have a smart president, you will never lose the standard. If you have a stupid president, like the last one, you would lose the standard. You wouldn't have the dollar as you. And if we lost the world standard dollar, that would be like losing a war, a major world war. We would not be the same country any longer. We're not going to let that happen. The dollar, you ever hear the expression, dollar is king? the dollar is king. We're going to keep it that way, okay? And I'm just saying, if people want to challenge it, they can, but they're going to have to pay a big price. And I don't think any of them are willing to pay that price.
But more.
And of course, that was US President Donald Trump. And now we come to AXA. Let me start off with you, Mr. Ashio Aki. What, in your own perspective, what actually explains Trump's tariff diplomacy, a very radical one, diplomacy on BRICS nations working generally for the growth of the global South in particular? Please, your mic is muted, Mr. Eke. Please.
Oh, so yeah, thank you. So Trump came to power, talking about America first. That's his policy, and he's trying to entice nationalism to come to the fore and bring about America's leadership, the mentality or the bravado or the power that or the soft power that America uses to dominate the whole world. And so it's trying to use that to subjugate to subjugate the whole world. Even though we are trying to find solutions to near and dear to the world population, America is in fact America is using its economy, is using the whole world economy to its benefit, using the dollar. That's what it's using. So the whole world is working hard, and the US is benefiting from it, using its currency, the dollar. It's the same thing that happened with France CFA. The currency we have in 14 countries in Africa. France created the France CFA to benefit itself. So whatever growth that we are having in the continent is being transferred to France. France is benefiting from that. There is a German news organization or newspaper that said that France is benefiting up to $400 billion a year from African economies. And so the same goes for the US. The US dollar is dominant. They can use the dollar. They can play with it as they want. They have laws, extraterritoriality laws that they put in place to sanction anybody that doesn't follow the US internal policies. It's like, so the global world is the US world anyway. So that's how it looks, it feels, and they don't understand that people are going to try to organize to trade among themselves. No, they see that as a threat. Everything for the US is a threat. China is a threat. Russia is a threat. The whole BRICS is a threat. Everything is a threat. And so because they want to dominate the world in a way that no one can say a word. And that's not sitting well, because they've been doing that for the past how many years? I can't even count. And we see the results today. Every time the US economy has a headache, the whole economy is suffering. And with the US debt, which stands around $36 trillion today, US debt, $36 trillion today. Maybe, I think it's 37 already at this point. So it's who is going to pay that debt? The world economy. The world is paying for that debt. And what Trump is doing, he's bamboozling the whole world. He's trying to use tariffs to bamboozle the world, to scare everybody, and to pretend that, well, if we put a tariff on you, you're not going to be able to sell your product to the United States. Great. But the BRICS people, the BRICS members, are selling products among them. As we see over the years, the share of trade between members of BRICS is growing. I think it stands right now around 40-something percent, 46% or something like that. I looked at the last statistics. It's growing, and the population of the BRICS is also growing. We are already around 50% of population of the whole world. And so it's showing, BRICS is showing that, if it keeps going this way, it's going to, encompass the whole population of the whole world except for the G7 members, and that is not going to sit well with all these people. But that's the way to go. If you have to counteract the power of dollar, for the next 10, 15, 20 years, that's the way to go, because there's no other option, unless we have a war, a World War III, which we can, which will allow the whole world to fight against the U.S. and destroy the U.S. There's no other option than to trade among them, among the different countries, member countries, so that they can reduce their share of the dollar needs to buy, gasoline, whatever, petrol, whatever, anything that they want to buy. They can use their own currency, and that way the U.S. is not going to impose on them its own internal policies. And that is the crux of it. If the United States, if we let the United States do what they want today, they're going to keep pushing forward until passes. I think the best policy would be to stick together. Even if they put a tariff for 1,000%, well, it's not just going to be one way. The U.S. is going to suffer too. Remember that. And then they're going to be quick at backing down. They tried that with China. They put the tariff at 145% with China. Guess what? They were the one running and begging China to talk, begging President Xi to call them. Oh, please call us. We need to talk to China. We need to talk to China. Guess what? The tariff went back down to about 30%. And that's what it is. So if they can play that game, right? But who is in the long run? Who is going to lose? Because what happens is the whole world, the world South, they're going to learn to deal with those tariffs, and they're going to find ways to trade even more amongst themselves, and which is the whole world. That is really the whole world economy. They're going to learn to trade amongst themselves in a way that allows every country to benefit from being a BRICS member. And that is what the whole world is saying. And that's why we have so many countries that are trying to join the BRICS, because they see the opportunity to free themselves from the dictate, from the domination of the G7 as a whole. And Africa is one of the continents in the world that needs BRICS more than any other continent, because it allows African countries that are very vulnerable to join other strong BRICS countries and be part of the decision process of freeing themselves from the domination of the United States. So BRICS is an opportunity for Africa to be able to free itself and expand the opportunities they may have to sell their finished product. Remember, the Western countries, they don't want Africa to develop, to industrialize, because that's going to be a disadvantage to them. They want Africa to stay a continent where they produce raw products, and then they are the one producing the final product, the finished product, and selling them to Africa so they can buy and then sustain the economies. But that's not what Africa is looking forward to now. We are looking forward to be part of the global world, to be effective in the global economy, to industrialize. I see so many different countries in Africa now trying to put together power plants, power plants that will allow them to have enough electricity, enough energy to be able to put together strong industries that will allow them to be able to produce goods, finished goods, and then be able to trade effectively in the whole world. So I'm not sure you are listening to me.
Saiki, thank you so much for that. And in the same perspective, let's go to, I think Punima Anand just joined us, who is president of BRICS International Forum. She's joining us from India this day. Hello to you, dear Punima. Welcome to the program. And we're welcoming you with this question because our main topic is asking the question if BRICS can actually ignite global reforms. And we are taking a reference from the meeting in Brazil and the final declaration of that was adopted So, do you think actually BRICS has the capacity to ignite global change or probably reforms? And what practical difference can we today note that BRICS has made on the world stage since its new impetus?
Good evening. First of all, I am sorry for my delay due to heavy rains in Delhi. I am very happy to come on your channel. And today we know that BRICS Summit is just completed in Brazil, and we saw that many declarations came. The classes I am working on BRICS since 2008. When this declaration happened first time in Ekaterinburg, we are observing BRICS from that time. And now after 17 years, where we reach, this is very important that now what is the position of BRICS nations, they can ignite new reforms or not. This is really very good topic after 17th BRICS Summit. As I know that during last 17 years, BRICS passed through many routes and many nations joined it, and we faced many new situations during last 10 years. First of all, we faced COVID, and after COVID, we faced many wars, and after that, artificial intelligence and digital cyber crimes and terrorism is increasing. These three things change the world, and previous traditional systems of global economy and global politics changing. That's why America and European countries having problem. Nowadays, it is important that all countries need their economic development, their own rights, they need respect. That's why BRICS is upcoming, and BRICS is becoming magnet among Eastern world and Southern global countries. And during BRICS countries summits, we observe that many nations are feeling their situation more better than United Nations Security Council and United Nations bodies. Because BRICS basic agenda is to give equal right to all nations. This is the basic thing why all nations are attracting towards BRICS. And BRICS countries are having same problems, poverty, education, health system, and economic development. So they are in same boat. They all want to come together and to address the same agendas. This is the main attraction in BRICS. We are not saying that BRICS is stretching the world. Our issue is that we are associating, we are uniting for our common goals. And our common goals are to address our problems, which are not the problem of Europe and America. They are at different level because after Second World War, they were doing their development and they were using our resources, our intelligence, our scientific resources for their development. Now BRICS nations and Africa, Asia, CIS countries knows that how they can do their own development, how they can become self-sufficient. And United Nations declared a few years ago Sustainable Development Goals. Absolutely. And this program was sent to all nations. And every country is thinking about it, that how they can develop their own sustainable development goals. Indeed. Because everybody's goals are different. Developed nations have they need different requirements, and poor countries have different requirements. So here we need balance, and BRICS agenda and BRICS countries can make this balance. So this is the main agenda of the BRICS summit, that how we all together can develop and how we can help each other. This is the turbulence time of wars, and this is the main issues that terrorism and environment, climate change problems are impacting on every nation. So this is the basic issue, that why BRICS become magnet for all countries, and I can say that BRICS can ignite. And BRICS is a group of nations. Like after Second World War, what is the meaning of Europe? Europe is a group of nations, and they decided long back that they will work together for defense, common economy, common trade. So they develop very fast. Similarly, BRICS nations trying to come together to solve their common issues together with their resources, with their limits. So I don't think that BRICS is stretching to world order, but BRICS is a multipolar world, and BRICS is giving equal right to all nations, and BRICS can ignite the new reforms in turbulence time. And I hope this wars will be settled down, and BRICS countries will work with Europe, with other countries, and BRICS is having common agenda that all nations are equal and all are having equal rights to grow together. So this is my observation.
Indeed, thank you so much for that, dear Punima. It's about having equal rights to grow together, and like you've said, the United Nations spelled out the Sustainable Development Goals. But then, for countries or nations around the global world to be able to benefit for that, there is need to contextualize or to internalize some of these policies and see how practical they are towards ensuring indeed sustainability in politics, economy, financial, particularly economic progress of nations. Coming back to you, Pasaka, to continue with the conversation earlier on, you quite mentioned the need for a global economic south, and of course now we want to look at in your own perspective, because most at times we talk about global south, but then people do not some people do not have a clear understanding of the concept of the global south. And then what do you think a collective bloc like BRICS can do to be able to probably counteract this cohesive diplomacy that is coming from the Trump administration at the time? It is working towards ensuring a balance in the global south.
Thank you, Clarice. So the Global South basically is countries that have been regarded as the developing world, and those who are in the process of starting their development. So specifically, you look at countries that are in Africa, that is the Global South, parts of Asia that form the Global South, part of let me think, South America that forms the Global South. So primarily those are countries that are regarded as countries that have been underdeveloped, or they did not form part of the global West during historically. So one of the frustrating things that we are now having to deal with is how to position ourselves in this global market, primarily because of how difficult it has become for us to find a position that unites, to move together. We are willing to strengthen each other and ourselves so that we can be able to combat what the United States has decided to do in terms of their tariffs. The reason why we have tariffs, and I do believe that Brother Akil did touch on this, is primarily because the USA feels that it is being threatened by the Global South. Because they do know that there are countries, countries around the world are interacting, are doing business without the United States, but having to use the dollar, and that strengthens the dollar. And countries have to do trade, buying oil. That strengthens the order. That strengthens the dollar. That is why Trump spoke of the dollar supremacy, because what is happening is that the most used currency throughout the world is the dollar. You have you go to Zimbabwe, you're able to use the dollar. You go to Ethiopia, you are able to use the dollar. You go to Asia, you are able to use the dollar. So that means that the dollar is always in circulation, and thus that means that the United States continues to stand very tall and become very strong, primarily because of that. So his biggest worry is that this BRICS union continues to build and strengthen itself by inviting more and more members into BRICS. And by so doing, it means if there is a possibility, which has been discussed historically, if there is a possibility that we can have a BRICS currency, or we can decide to trade outside of the dollar, where you can use the South African rand in Brazil, you can use the South African rand in China, and etc., or the other member countries, then that would mean that there won't be a necessity for the dollar. And parts of the West themselves, they will also stop using the dollar. Specifically, those countries like Germany, who still continue to buy gas from Russia, would not have a need to use the dollar in order for them to interact with the rest of the world. So for him, he feels as though that is a threat. And I would like to emphasize and say, yes, he is correct. He is correct, because if countries move away from the dollar, it weakens the United States.
Absolutely.
But what gets to me is the hypocrisy of the United States attempting to isolate itself and saying that we are going to put tariffs on everyone so that what do you call this, companies can come back to the United States. So that means that they don't want a globalized world anymore. Absolutely. But they still want to influence a globalized world, the rest of the world specifically. And that is very frustrating, because if you think about it, that means that they want to have their cake and eat it too. And why I say this, it's because they want to be able to benefit from the rest of the world, but no one benefits from them. Trade in itself, the way that it has been built, because the United States has been such a superpower for so many years, it has meant that it is going to be a global superpower economically. Thus, it means that the majority of the world is going to have a negative trade deficit with them. Why? Because they have more money, but they do not have all the resources in the world. So that means that they have to buy resources from the rest of the world, that they have the strong currency. That means that they have to be able to trade with everyone else. But I think that one of the most important parts that we haven't touched on with the current president of the United States is that he doesn't seem to understand how trade works. He thinks that you can be able to trade on an equal platform between the United States and the rest of the world. Even the smallest countries such as Lesotho, which is in South Africa, the size of a province with a very small population, it is impossible for Lesotho to be able to trade with the United States on an equal level. So we need to keep in mind that we are dealing with someone who doesn't necessarily understand trade. But lastly, the most important thing that I'd like to leave on the table is that I am so glad that the leaders of BRICS came together and they said, we are rejecting these tariffs that the United States is presenting. Thus, if they can show a united front and if they can show their strength, what we are going to witness is that more countries are going to reject having to do business with the United States of America. And to be one step closer to seeing the United States becoming weaker. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Pasaka. And in the same light, we continue to look at how the BRICS can tactically, strategically, and diplomatically navigate these threats from the Trump administration in his agenda of making America great again by adopting a very cohesive diplomacy with you, Mr. Kofi Don. What collective measures can BRICS leaders or leadership practically do as a bloc to adopt towards Trump's harsh stance on any change that he's afraid that will actually kill U.S. hegemony at every front, particularly as far as the economic prowess of the country is concerned? Mr. Kofi?
Hello? Yes. Can you hear me?
Sure, I can hear you now.
Okay. There's a little scratch, and if you can give me back to the question.
We're asking at some of the collective measures that the BRICS bloc can use to actually, counteract the cohesive threat coming from the US in his policy of making America great again. What stance can they tactically, strategically, and diplomatically use to probably counteract this very cohesive stance on Trump that he says he's actually working to ensure that the dollar maintains its position?
Yeah, thank you so much. I think that in my introductory remarks, I did mention of Brics coming together to make sure that they are able to have mobilized funding for especially maybe climate projects or climate agenda. But going beyond that, I think that unity and coordination is very key in this discussion. Until the BRICS nation are able to become, united well and coordinate activities among themselves, that'll be more effective when we're able to do that. Apart from that, there should be an institutional strengthening. We should institute the institutions that we have. We should strengthen them and make sure that they are able to work effectively. When institutions are strong enough, it brings development, and members of the BRICS must make sure that institutions are strengthened. And when they are strengthened, it means that you're able to have your development. And then also, there should be a global engagement. The BRICS nation must have global engagement with stakeholders to make sure they promote reforms and cooperation among themselves, which is very key, because if you do not have global engagement, you may not know what is happening in other places. So there's a need for them to have that global conversation, and that will really help the BRICS nation. Apart from that, advocating for reforms, as I've mentioned, is very key to make sure that the IMF and the World Bank, they may have some representation in some of the positions that being held. Because if you look at the global south, most of the time the representation for the global south is not well felt within the world global conversation. So it's very important. And then I think someone mentioned of the having one currency, which is very key as well, and abandoning the so-called the powerful currency that the United States dollar, to make sure that within the blocks, they have common currency. And these are some of the things that I think that when they're able to do, that will help them to come out strongly. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you are just tuning in, you are most welcome to Global Insight this day. And a discursive knowledge sharing program that seeks to discuss the problems of the world and see how there can be a common ground that will be favorable for international relations and actually globalization. But actually now the tumultuous state of the world that has been characterized by wars at every level, political, economic wars, and even ideological wars, have put the world in a very hard rock. And this program seeks to analyze how these international bodies, multilateral institutions, and especially the United Nations Security Council can be abreast with the new dynamics or changes which have occurred so far in the global world, and see how new policies can be put in place to ensure that these international relations and globalization benefits the global world. And let's come back to you, Purnima Ananda. I think what Mr. Kofi highlighted will take me to the question which I'm directing to you about the institutionalization of the BRICS bloc. How do you think what do you think are some of these policies that the bloc can now implement now that there is a new impetus in the block pertaining all the challenges which you cited in your first primary discourse, and to note that you resigned from the World Bank to actually pursue Brics agenda, which according to you was a more people-oriented agenda. So what can you say pertaining this the institutionalization of the Brics bloc towards the realities of present times? Purnima. Dear Purnima, please can you hear me?
Hello. Yes. So this segment is very important in our today's discussion, because earlier, before Brics development in 2009, international bodies like World Bank, IMF, United Nations, and many security agencies and NATO was working and leading the whole world. And it was bipolar sometime, or sometime it was multipolar. But point is that international institutions control the whole world. Now, if Brics is rising and Brics wants to ignite the world, or Brics wants to give reforms to current world order, so we need our international institutions. And it was very important agenda in all Brics summit. And you know that Brics New Development Bank is developed. And Brics New Development Bank is working in Shanghai, in China, and they are doing equal participation of all Brics nations plus Brics plus nations, those who become new member, like Indonesia and other countries. UAE is also trying for the membership. So it is a very strong segment that we are having one international institution which is equivalent to World Bank, because it's strength World Bank, and they are having CRG funds also, which can save the World Brics Bank if any currency problem will develop. That CRG fund can save the contingency funds, it is called, can save the Brics Bank. Though World Bank is not having such funds. So World Bank is depend on the GDP of all countries, and on that GDP percentage World Banks make their strategies and World Bank runs. But Brics Bank is having their own funds and CRG funds. So this is one very important and strong initiative from the Brics group. And secondly, Brics is needed more international institution like new democratic values, international observers, plus financial, like we are having different currencies and we need to create Brics currency, digital alliances, trade, new trade routes through ports. We need new ports. So these all institutional requirements are existing, and some countries are taking initiative, like Dubai is developing Dubai port, and recently Dubai port head was in Brazil, and he offered that if you will support Dubai port, he can change all global south trade routes to Europe. Between Europe and global south, they can play very important role. And if you will see the geographically, it is very important. And Abrazia is also upcoming to make the port. So this new ports will change the future trade and future economy. So we are having bank, we are having new ports, and we are trying to develop new energy circuit. Energy, Africa need energy, Asia need energy. So energy is the first important resource we all need. Now so many solar and wind energy solutions are coming, but Russia is very good in oil and gas. And Russia is moving towards African countries, strengthening Africa, because United Nations also understanding that Africa is slipping from their hands. That's why this year United Nations Security Council give them temporary membership. Though Africa reserve and need permanent membership and veto power, but they give just entry in the United Nations system. But we can say this is also ignite of BRICS, because they understand if we will not give them space, all will go to the BRICS side. So this is of BRICS group. So energy sector, and first of all, very important thing is terrorism, because terrorism is raising every day, and this need to be controlled. And nowadays, cyber security is also one of the very important issue. So all BRICS countries need to develop their security council. I'm not saying to develop NATO, but we need to develop our internal security council to support each other and to protect our countries. Because we are having threats from all sides, from our borders, from our outer sides. So we need to develop such institutions, many new institutions. And first of all, very important thing is that all international certifications comes from America or Britain. If you want to do something in electricity, if you want to do something in scientific collaboration, suppose you created any medical equipment. So if you want to market it in the world, you need international certificate which you can take from WHO. So we need new certification committees, and this is not only one sector. We need certification like chartered accountant companies, aviation companies, and trade companies. If you need ISO certificates, you need all certificates from America, which is highly paid. This is also a problem that our countries, poor countries, are not able to become the member of that certification committees. So these all things need to be addressed, and we need to develop our international institutions in all sectors. Then we can develop fast and we can support each other. So this is my observation and my thought point, that BRICS countries and Global South, nowadays it is very important agenda, and ISCO conference is also happening, G20 is also happening. And if we observe last for 5 years G20 summits, we can see that all G20 summits are happening in BRICS countries.
Absolutely.
So, and Davos is not happening. Davos is closed. But St. Petersburg Economic Forum and other international forum in BRICS countries are happening. China economic forums are very big, very informative. So this is all need to be addressed, and we need to unite. This is we should have trust in each other. Suppose Africa is developing some scientific equipment, then other BRICS countries should have trust that yes, whatever equipment they develop, it will work in our countries also. So we should give space to scientific research. But all scientific research in current world need certification of America and international agencies. So this is not workable. We should have trust in our own intelligence, in all experience, in our tradition and our previous scientific icons. So this all we need to unite. So first hand, we united in the finance sector through BRICS New Development Bank, and I hope slowly we will develop other institutions. BRICS is towards development.
And it's about a collective approach that will actually reduce the growing gaps existing, and actually putting international relations in a state of uncertainty. And to continue the conversation with you, Pasika Faramali, we're still looking at the stakes involved. We are quite aware that after the BRICS summit and the 10% tariff increase announced by Trump, and of course about 30 on South Africa, we saw negative comments coming even from Africans patterning South Africa's stance and on the BRICS, and people went as far as saying it is high time for African African nations to actually move away from the BRICS, because Russia, China, and other powers that actually do hold the highest authority, or in terms of political economic progress of the bloc, even left wanting, given U.S. dynamics or diplomacy patterning, tariffs and everything. So what do you think can be the position of Africans? How can they actually navigate this very tumultuous moment of international diplomacy, especially countries that are still party to the AGOA?
Clarice, one of the most frustrating things when you hear Africans saying this is that they believe that the status quo is correct. The position that Africa finds itself in is correct. But that is very problematic, because we do know that our interactions and relationships with the rest of the West over time have not been healthy ones. That is why we find the continent of Africa in the position that it currently finds itself in. That is why we have leaders in the Sahel like Traore, who say, but this cannot continue as it was, because at the end of the day, this does not benefit us. This, we need to do us for us, so that we can actually get to the position that you got to. One of the key things that we need to do is to make sure that we strengthen our relationship with BRICS, not cancel what we already have established. Because once we are able to move away from these powers that have neglected us but have taken advantage of us at the same time, once we are able to move away, then and only then do I believe that Africa stands a chance to see itself in a better position. Brother Kofi has been emphasizing something, that for you to be able to strengthen a place and a space, specifically Africa, you need to have funding that comes in.
Yeah.
I do not believe that the United States and the rest of the world have done enough to fund this continent for us to be able to develop a lot of the parts of the continent. And I'm not saying that we are coming out with a begging bowl. We are not asking for donations, but I am saying that to have a fair rapport, then there should be fair trade between us and the rest of the world. Currently, the way France specifically has been benefiting from the rest of the continent until today is absurd, because it does not make sense how a continent as small as France can have so much wealth that has been extracted specifically in the continent of Africa from the francophone countries. So we need to question those relationships, and that is why I say that it becomes absolutely absurd when we say that we can now not move away from our relationship with the West. If the West wants to have a relationship with us, if Donald Trump specifically wants to establish and maintain a relationship with the continent, then it should be on a fair level. We cannot continue to have a relationship that takes advantage of the continent, a relationship that is unfair. I'll show you a case in point which I find very frustrating. The agreement that had happened between the Congo and Rwanda recently, that had to be signed in the United States. It is really frustrating, because all that has done is that it has enabled the United States to continue to do what it has done historically, where they continue to take from the continent and do the bare minimum, which is they're going to provide manpower and try to stabilize the Congo, specifically the Eastern Congo. And I think that is just not right. I think that there is so much that could have been done initially before we found ourselves in the position that we find ourselves in. I think that there should have been an internal solution that could have been followed. But one of the biggest problems that we've learned over time is that we need to decolonize our minds. Why do I say we need to decolonize our minds? We need to center Africanism. Why do I say that? Because when African intermediaries were trying to resolve the problems that were happening in the Eastern Congo, nothing was accepted. The United States have offered the same solution, which is actually less of a better solution than what was offered, and somehow that was accepted. It is as though the value of what the United States says is more important than what we say. So for us to be able to strengthen ourselves, we need to start where? By taking ourselves serious and being able to resolve our own problems without having to go running to Donald Trump. That is why he feels that he is still as powerful as he used to be. Thank you, Clarice.
And of course, there is need, like you said, to change the mind. And I think Rwandan President Paul Kagame has always reiterated the need for Africa to change the mind. And of course, the change will transcend to every level: political, economic, social, cultural, and you can name the rest. Now, let's look at what is happening with you, Mr. Ashil Eki. Let's try to understand some sort of, shifting or maybe a balance of power, particularly at the economic levels. The stance taken by the United States of America towards the expansion of Brics. And we also know, we heard in the preamble about a report that said that the Brics today is talking about some sort of 40% of the world's GDP. Now let's look at how the changing narratives in terms of geopolitical shifts in power dynamics is actually at the center of this confrontation between the traditional West and the emerging powers in the global stage.
Right. This is a very important question. I mean, a question earlier to Conseka about some of the African people who are negative about, who are advocating for Africa to leave BRICS.
Yeah. And
this is appalling, because let's look at the impact of BRICS right now in the world economy. Okay, the expanded BRICS bloc now represents nearly half of the population of the world and accounts for about 40 to 46% of GDP. When we measure it through purchasing power parity, right?
Sure.
And we look at the GDP growth for BRICS. Now what we talked about 40 to 46% of GDP of BRICS today, compared to the G7, which is about 28% right now, 28 to 30%.
Yeah.
Whereas in terms of growth, the BRICS growth is projected to be around 3.4% in 2025, compared to the world average, which is about 2.8%.
Yeah.
And we have leading contributors in the world economy today, like India, that's contributing about 6.2%, Ethiopia 6.6%, Indonesia, that's been accepted as a member of BRICS, that's contributing 4.7%, and China at around 4%. So when we look at that and we compare BRICS against G7 in terms of economy, we see that the share of world GDP for BRICS is 40 to 46% compared to 28 to 30% to G7. The population of BRICS accounts for 48 to 55% of the world population. The share of global trade now stands at 24%, and the growth rate of GDP, in terms of GDP for BRICS, stand at 3.4% compared to the 2.8% for the G7. Yeah. So we see that there is a lot of traction, in BRICS. And when I look at this, I'm like, why is somebody saying that we need to leave BRICS when we have all the possibilities to expand our economy, when BRICS is growing, when the projected growth GDP for BRICS is at 3.4%, which is very high, looking at what's happening in the economy today. And so in terms of resources, let's look at in terms of resource control. In terms of oil production, BRICS account for 43% of global oil production. In terms of natural gas, 36%. In terms of coal production, 78%. In terms of rare earth minerals reserves, BRICS account for 72%. So it's incredible when I hear people say things like that. Now we talk about investment, right? Chinese companies alone have invested over $100 billion, in the BRICS in terms of clean technology since 2023. And so this is driving, for people who are very fan of the green economy, it's driving the green industry today. And so there is no real argument for those people to advocate for those kind of things to happen to Africa. But I understand they're probably looking at short-term benefits, but we have to look at long-term. Yes, we have to look at long-term, because if we want to free ourselves from the dictate of USA and Europe, we have to find solutions, and it's not in the short term. Yes, we are going to face headwinds. We are going to face difficulties. Those countries they're not going to allow us to be able to organize quietly. No, they're not going to sit back quietly and do nothing. We expect that we're going to have rough times ahead of us, but the opportunity lies ahead. If we persist, if we are stronger, if we are more united, then they are going to be facing the backlash of their own decisions, because those tariffs are two ways. They're two-way sword, It's not just one way.
For sure.
Exactly. So exactly. So if you impose tariff on us, we can do the same to you as well, right? So the US imposed 10% or 25% or whatever, 145% like they did to China. Well, it hit the US, because at some point, when they impose 145% tariff on China, guess what? People in the US want computers. They want to buy all kind of electronic stuff.
Yeah.
Guess what? The tariff is going to hit the population, and the people are going to revolt. So he saw that coming, and then he had to back down. So that's what we need to do. Don't let people who are pushing us towards the brink, towards destruction. Don't let them do that. No, we have to push back. We have to use the same measure. Sometimes we have to use reciprocity, in terms of so that they can feel the same pain that we're feeling. We are already suffering anyway. But the thing is, the Western countries, they don't understand suffering. They don't understand that it's not part of their nature. We live in difficult countries, poor countries. We deal with suffering every day, so we are almost immune. It's like natural for us. Just look at COVID, right? COVID came in and wiped out 1 million Americans in a matter of months. Whereas where they were predicting a disaster in Africa happened. It didn't happen, right? Because they're not prepared to fight. They're used to enjoying other people's hard work and then steal from other countries and other people, and that's what they enjoy. They don't understand how to fight. So when we fight back, it really hurts them. And now that we have the same level of competition in every area of technology, science, anything, the world today is surpassing the US, which is the leading Western country. We're surpassing them now. Look at what happened in Iran, right? Israel attacked Iran, hoping that they were going to, blow up Iran, destroy the country. Well, guess what? They're the ones suffering today, begging for ceasefires. This is because Iran stayed strong against all odds. They had to fight. When I hear somebody in African leaders say things, we need to back down, we have to let Brics, destroy, we have to leave Brics. I look at him, I'm like, you are out of your mind, my brother. You are out of your mind. You are not understanding what is at stake here.
Understanding the present stakes.
Absolutely. You're not understanding what is at stake here. And so definitely I would suggest him to rethink, to really think, all those people who are thinking like that, they have to rethink their thought process and look at the data that I just mentioned. Brics is a growing group that's growing by the day, influencing world economy, world trade, influencing politics all over the world, and the implications of our economies through trade with our own currency is going to be more powerful to the point where the US is going to come and beg BRICS countries to try to do more business with the dollar, to use the dollar, because the US dollar today is at the lowest it's been in the long term in terms of share of global economy, right? So in terms of currency reserve in the world economy today, so it's at the lowest, and it's and in terms of the trade in terms of debt. The U.S. debt stands around 37 trillion nowadays, and,
this
and
sponsoring
guess what?
war.
Japan is the leading country that holds U.S. debt, followed by China. And if those two countries decide to dump the currency, and it's starting to happen, we're seeing a lot of dumping happening already from both countries. It is scary in the U.S. And so that is going to prompt them to change their behavior, because reality is going to sink in, and they're going to change the behavior, and they're going to come to the table and work with other countries of the world. All this tariff stuff is just for me, it's just a desperate move to bring people to the table, but no one cares anymore. The world doesn't revolve only around the U.S. You know, we can do business amongst ourselves. We can do all kind of stuff without needing U.S. participation, whether it's through its currency or its influence or anything.
Sure.
So that's what I would say to all the Africans who are advocating for Africa to leave Brics.
And I think it is a time that powers should accept the changes, and of course I think there is need to revisit the preamble of or the dictates of international relations to ensure that it becomes some sort of a mutual display that actually brings into consideration the present realities of society. And I think just time for us to remind our viewers that Global Insight was put in place to ensure that we promote constructive discourse or dialogue that will help to bridge the existing gap which is not favoring international relations. And I thank you of course, ladies and gentlemen, for trusting the process. And while we are looking at the dynamics of the present war, and of course largely the geopolitical contestation between the traditional Western powers and the emerging economies or blocks or institutions, and which Brics is on the table today, we want to understand how countries, especially that feel entrapped in all of this geopolitical competition, can navigate it and also have a larger scope to redefine their foreign policy and actually have a say in the international arena. And this question is coming to you, Mr. Kofi. We know when John Dramani Mahama, beg your pardon, came back to power, there were debates if he will move towards the Brics, and we know how Ghana has been a beneficiary of loans from the International Monetary Fund. And now, so what do you think is the right philosophy or strategy, or probably diplomacy, that these countries, especially the countries that we today consider to be countries, less developed nations, can adopt to navigate this constructively to write a clear trajectory for Africa's sustainable development?
Yeah, thank you once again. And I might say that, let me take out the argument from the thoughts that Africa should be out of this Brics. It's a no area, no at all, because it's the unity that we need to be able to develop our various countries and our economics. That is very key, and we must get it right, because United States of America has been where they are because they are united. United Kingdom, it's where they are because they are united. Europe, it's where they are because they are united. When you go to some of the European countries before they became united, they were not as they were. So the argument should be no at all. But rather, we should strengthen in our institutions, as I've indicated early on. But more importantly, our leaders, our head of states, must be proactive in whatever they are doing. Specifically when it comes to Ghana, and currently our president is talking about 24-hour economy, he's talking about so many other reforms that he wants to bring on board. I know that these reforms or these programs and activities that the president wants to come out with, if we are able to handle them properly, well, I think it will help our economy. That will boost, production of, what we are eating and also exporting, from Ghana to other countries, which is very key. Now, for 24-hour economy, which was launched not quite long, I believe it could be a game changer if we're able to do it very well. Looking at the document and perusing the document and what has been launched so far, I think there's more we can do to make sure that people really understand what it means. We must educate people to understand what the projects are or what the initiatives are, and then that will also help our economy. Now, I also believe strongly that we must carry our people along. Most of the time, African leaders do not carry their people along, and we are not able to sell out properly the agenda and then the programs and activities that we have. And that has been the major issues and major problems affecting African countries. Education is very key. We must make sure that our people are well educated to understand the issues, so that when we are conversing with them, we'll be able to make sure that they come up with the discussions, they also follow the discussions, we are not left behind, we carry them along. And when we're able to do that, that will also help us to really... Now, one of the areas that probably I always think strongly is that when it comes to Africa, and for that matter in Ghana as an example, language, we have developed, or let me say, adopted Western language as international language, and I think it's very, very problematic, because if you're not able to communicate well, it becomes very difficult for people to understand what you are saying. And this goes to a lot of African countries, and I think that let's stop copying the Western world. Let us localize things that we do. Let people have interest in the things we do. Let people begin to have confidence in what they have. Until we do that, we can never develop. Development will only come when the people understand you, when they understand it in their own language. And that is the key thing for us to look at. In developing economics, one must also understand that education, as I've indicated, it's very key. If you don't educate your people, you are leaving them behind. Now, what kind of education are we talking about? Is it only classroom education? It's not only classroom education, but rather educate them on issues that are happening globally. They must understand global issues. They must understand local issues. They must understand everything that is happening globally. Then they can fix themselves into it. If you don't do that, it means that we are getting behind. So for me, I think that African countries, and for that matter, Ghanaians must, if you're taking from Ghanaian perspective, must rise out to the call, and leadership must take the role. When leadership is able to take up the role, members of the population will also follow suit to that. And I think these discussions must continue to happen most of the time, because until we have more engagement with our people, they will not be able to follow the discussion. So let us not leave our people behind. Most of the time, politics are too much, especially when it comes to Ghana. Everything want to politicize it, and I don't think it's so good for us. For instance, when it comes to Ghana, the National Planning Commission, so to speak, may have their agenda or something that we need to focus on, as every government that comes must run the activities. But it never happened that every political party comes into power and want to have their own agenda. And I do not think that will help our economies. And I believe that these things happen in most of these African countries that we find ourselves, which is not helping at all. Now, there's one critical thing I want to talk about here. When you look at our neighboring in the northern part of Ghana, Burkina Faso, in recent time, all of us know the stand that the head of state has taken. And I'm surprised a lot of African leaders has not even come out strongly to support Toure in Burkina Faso, because, of course, they may think that it's not practicing democracy. But I tell you, until we rise up to the call and make sure that the Western world are not taking advantage of us, we will not develop. I mean, recently, France is not operating its airline in Burkina Faso, and you'll be surprised the amount of money they are losing. That should tell you that there's more in Africa that we can do to support ourselves. Look at the natural resources we have. Are we able to put value on them? We are not able to do that.
Sure.
And we take the raw material to the Western world and they bring us back inferior things. And I don't know why our leaders are not thinking. I'm sorry to say that our leaders must think beyond that and make sure we understand the issues and try as much as possible to build the capacity of our people to understand international way of doing things.
Absolutely.
For instance, you come to mobilization of funds to, again, on climate issues. And even people don't even know how to even write simple proposals to be able to meet, they say they call it a bankable proposal, to meet international standard for it, then to even get funding and support to run it. So you realize that there's so much we need to do. There's so much for Africans to do than what we are thinking. So for me, I think that let's come back to the blackboard, let's come back to the table, have discussions, know where we are, know what the challenges are, put it on together, and then work towards it. Let's have the can-do spirit. Let's support each other. Let's unite. Let's speak, one language. When we talk about one language, let's say the same thing wherever we find ourselves. And when we're able to do that, that will really help our economics. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's about Africa being practical while dealing with issues that have some sort of global ramifications, and we are talking about why you quite mentioned the politics in the African continent that largely do not actually position the continent well at the international arena. There is need, of course, to ensure that the political dynamics across Africa do change, like what we're seeing in the Sahel states. There was the need to have practical sovereignty, and that is why we see the wind of change blowing across the region. Coming back to you, Punuma Anand, we continue to look at the challenges facing the bloc that is Brics. When the US president announced the tariffs, you see a country like India, and we also know that there is a call for countries to stop buying Russian oil if they do not want to incur severe maybe sanctions or tariffs that will largely impact their economies. And this leaves some countries actually for probably wanting to handle this individually. So what are those strategies that the bloc can actually adopt to be able to navigate these challenging moments coming particularly from this geopolitical confrontation between the West and the East, in line with the economic dynamics as well?
This is really very interesting and important question. During last 5 years, we observed that Western world act differently, and need of the global South and Brics countries and Eastern world is different.
Yeah.
So these differences are creating controversies and many wars starting during these 5 years. We observed that Russia-Ukraine crisis, and now Iran and Israel crisis, before that Yemen, Syria, Lebanon, so many crises were there. Now latest is India-Pakistan. Okay, so these crises, why it is happening, what is the difference, and why we are going for the war. And if we are doing war, simply, if I remember my old days, I understand if war is happening, one country want to invade another country. This is the meaning of war. But now we are looking that 3 years or 2 years or 1 year war is going on. Little Hamas is very small. Nobody is able to control. We are not saying that Israel is won or Iran is won. No victory there. So I feel this is not a war. It is a show of weapon industry. And they are using our borders. They are using our weapons. They are criticizing the country issues, okay, at international border, and sometimes they balance this side, sometimes they balance that side. Okay, but countries are coming under controversies. They start fighting, and someone give weapon to one country, another company give weapon to another country. So ultimately, one country is giving weapon to both sides. So this is like we are in the cage, and we don't have any option for our sovereignty, our freedom, our development. If we will grow, Israel is very good. Israel grown up very nicely. They were modern. They were having very good weapons, very good buildings, very good economy. Iran also doing very good. But now they are killing, they are damaging each other.
Yeah.
And who are the countries who are supporting them? If we will kill humanity, if we will kill development, finish damage development like this, what is the meaning of development? So my point is that if we are coming in strategic partnership and equal goals and common goals, we need to understand each other. We don't need to fight. We need common development. If we will do common development and another country will fight, they will send their weapons on our development. What is the use? We are killing our young army people in our borders. Russia lost 5 million young army people. Ukraine lost 15 million people. Iran and Israel losing so many young people. Why? What is the use if we are educated, scientific resources we have, geographical good locations we have sea, we have rivers, sky, air, but why we are fighting? So these wars are not the solution. We need to understand our challenges and we need to resolve them by dialogue. And we should control this war because it is not a dispute of our two borders, two countries, or two issues. It is a challenge of the weapon companies because they ignite the wars between our countries. Okay, so we need to understand their motive and we need to understand our need. We are poor countries, we are developing countries, our sustainable goals are different. We need education, we need health instruments, we need scientific development, we need good roads, infrastructure. But weapon industry, they have all these things. Their mind setup is just to make the stock of dollars, stock of gold mines. And our needs are different. So we need to make our resources together, our development together, and our trust and unity. This is the most important in
That will
current
benefit.
world order.
Indeed, and that will benefit all mankind, particularly those at the lower level. Some pundits will always, like you have said, Punima, that when they sponsor war, the goal is to kill the population and keep the land. But then, how can we change this diplomacy of war to instead protect humanity? And of course enjoy the endowment of every country. And we are drawing closer to the end of the program, but we continue to look at the way forward. There is always need to have a common ground that will try to mitigate some of the adverse effects of probably trade war, political war that we are seeing in the present world of today. Coming back to you, Mr. Ashiu Eki, we are still looking at what Brics can do collectively that will be very different from the cohesive stance that Western global powers have always used in the past. If we're talking about the probably first, second world wars that brought about, powers be given to probably U.S. and also the United Nations Security Council that came into play, we see that the preamble was actually drawn in line with the events that happened back then. But then we are facing a new era with new realities. We're still in the diplomacy. So what do you really think can be the practical or soft power diplomacy that BRICS nations can use to navigate this era that will make it quite different from what Europe or probably the Western world is doing in order to control the sphere of international relations?
Okay, I think let's talk about Africa as a Pan-Africanist that I am. I wanted to share also the views of Pan-Africanism. What is the benefit of BRICS for Africa?
Absolutely.
All right. So right. So when you look at BRICS as Pan-Africanists, we look at BRICS as a watershed moment for Africa's quest for dignity and autonomy and development. In this world where all powers impose tariffs, dictate financial terms, and marginalize African voices, BRICS really stands as a genuine alternative, right? So one that really empowers Africans to shape their own destiny. Now, if we look at in terms of dependency, BRICS allows African countries, to break free from dependency. It allows, Africans African nations the opportunity to trade and invest beyond the West, therefore reducing their vulnerabilities and their vulnerabilities to punitive decisions or tariff or shifting global politics that are occurring on a daily basis. In terms of infrastructure and development, the new development bank that was put together by BRICS brings billions of dollars in financing for roads, for power, nuclear power plants that are being, built in Burkina Faso and other parts of the continent now. I think there's an agreement now that in African countries have decided that nuclear power plant is going to be part of their energy package. It's important that we start investing in those. In terms of technology, our collaboration, our partnership with BRICS, is going to accelerate Africa's industrialization. Moving us from raw material exporters to producers of finished goods and digital services. And we know very well that Africans are very, there are so many geniuses in Africa that are just looking for opportunity to share their knowledge, their expertise, and their creativity to the world. In terms of financial sovereignty, trading in local currencies shields Africans' economies from volatility. And volatility that occurs based on the whims of Western countries in the market. That's how they're able to control the market. Especially the dollars. When Trump wants wants the market to go down, all you have to say is say something negative about the economy, and then the market goes down, and then he can invest some money and ask his billionaire friends to invest, to buy action, to buy shares of different companies' action, and then the next day he says something different, and then the market goes up. So he knows all that stuff. He understands how to manipulate the market. So we have to stray away from those manipulations that affects our countries. Multipolarity in terms of finance is important. It's a benefit to African countries because it offers alternative to Western-dominated financial system, allowing African countries to transact, and invest on better terms, on fairer terms. That's the idea, fairer terms. Because we are the one that are being ripped off, from contrary to what Trump is talking about. He's just trying to play victim here when he's the oppressor. So a stronger voice for Africa, as a Pan-Africanist, BRICS gives us the opportunity to no longer sit passively and then just be a recipient of decisions coming from those rich countries or powerful countries. No, we can play an active role now in shaping global politics, in defending our views, in promoting our values, and assert ourselves in a global world, in the global stage, like I see many African countries doing today. Look at the IOS, Mali, Burkina, and Niger. They are classified as the poorest of the poorest in the whole global world. And today, everybody is trying to talk to them, do business with them. They're looking at Traore, they're looking at Assimi Goïta, and they're looking at President Chani. They say, oh yeah, they are military people. But guess what? Military people are the one that liberated France. It's a military person that liberated France. De Gaulle, right? Killing Africans and then using Africans as shield, during World War II, and then liberating France with Africans. But when it came to celebrate the victory, he removed all the African people and then used some homeless people, white homeless people, and then they're the one who marched on Paris Street to celebrate. But he put all the African people, in the back end. And then when they even tried to claim their Jews, in Senegal, where most of them were residing, they killed them. They killed them, without any single ounce of humanity. Those people are just cruel, very cruel. They've been very cruel to Africa. So they don't want to see us develop. Any initiative that comes from us is a problem. So Brics gives us the opportunity to have that network of powerful countries. When I look at alliances that are being built between iOS countries and Russia, Russia has clearly stated that they're going to stand by iOS countries, Mali, Burkina. They're going to stand by those countries to support their development against the wishes of France that is always going behind the scene, trying to talk Russia into abandoning Africa so that they can come back and start exerting their influence and using the resources for free, like using the CFA franc. Because when somebody is printing your currency, he can do whatever he wants. That's the case for
Holding your economic priorities.
They're printing the currency in Paris, so they can print as much as they want, and then come to Africa and take our resources and only do some little accounting, within the books in the French treasury, and that's it. And so we are working entirely for France. That's why France can offer the social package in terms of services that they offer to their citizens that no other country in the world does, because they have unlimited resources coming from countries in Africa that are working hard. All the growth that we are creating in Africa is going to France because of the currency that we are using. That is not controlled by us, but that's controlled by France. So all these are going to be dismantled because of our participation in Brics. And Brics gives us that latitude, that opportunity, that leverage. That's the keyword, that leverage that we were looking for in order for us to assert our sovereignty and make our own decisions.
In data, it means Brics actually presents a competitive edge for the African continent in an era of what some people term the 21st century conquest, of which is happening across the African continent. With you, Pasika Faramali, being conversant of the dynamics across the African continent, and looking at how Africa can expand its scope, its voice at the international arena. So how can in your own perspective, how can Africa leverage its unique position within Brics then to elevate its role in global governance, diplomacy, politics, and what have you?
Thank you, Clarice. One of the things that I've been preaching for a lot of time now, for several years, is that Africa needs to position itself in a strong place before it can negotiate with the rest of the world. And the reason that I'm saying this is because every time when there has been discourse, I remember when the Ukraine-Russia war started, it was though the rest of the world wanted Africa to follow the West. The West was saying, but why would you go with Russia? Why would you do this? Well, because they do not see us as adults. They negotiate with us as if we are children. who need to be guided on how to think independently. And it is really frustrating. So, for us to be taken serious by the rest of the world, we will need to take ourselves serious first. The continent needs to find itself in a position where it strengthens its socio-economic relationships within itself, and then only then, once you are able to go from a point of strength, then you can negotiate with the rest of the world. A very important point that I think it was Brother Kofi who made about we have all the natural resources in the world that are very needed the world over.
Yeah.
I think about the cobalt in the Congo. We have all those minerals and those resources that we do not manufacture ourselves. Those resources, they are taken, exported, they are assembled, and then they are sold back to us at high prices. And the prices that we would have sold are at the most minimum. We barely sell at this point. We give them away so that they can be sold back to us. And that is very problematic. That means that you are the children that people assume that you are, the rest of the world assumes that you are. If we can start by finding leadership that understands the value of the continent, that centers the people of this continent, only then will we be able to negotiate with the rest of the world from a position of strength.
Yeah.
Realistically, to conclude, realistically, one of the most important things that will need to happen is that if we can strengthen ourselves, if we can find alternative relationships with specifically countries that are forming Brics, then only then would we be able to strengthen ourselves. And it's not an easy task to do, because we struggle from a continent that has a lot of nationalistic leaders who want to center their countries and thus be easily corruptible by the rest of the West. Because of that, it will be very difficult, but we will need a strengthened AU. We will need strengthened independent what do you call this, independent lobbying groups that portray the continent in a strong light. Then only then will we be able to strengthen ourselves socio-economically. Thank you, Clarice.
Mali. And coming to you, dear Purnima, for last question before we go. We're looking at BRICS and global governance. We have highlighted the fact that BRICS wants actually to bring about practical reforms that will bring some sort of a balance in the world, especially along economic lines. So let's look at this question, how the BRICS can probably reshape existing global governance system, and also ensure that the bloc has a voice, or maybe their voice probably resonates in a forum or international forums that are organized under the auspices of the United Nations or probably the World Trade Organization.
Thank you, Clarice. In the end, its answer is very big, but I'm trying to give you in short. Currently, the trade and finance and all institutions are changing. This is not only the reason that BRICS is growing. Reason is artificial intelligence and digitalization of the finance, digitalization of the trade routes. So these things are changing the world overall, and these digitalization changing the mindset of the strategy planners and governments also. So this change of the digital age will change the world in multipolar format, or global south or Europe or Asian. Many groups and blocks are working and new alliances are developing. Coming to your question, that we need sustainable development goal. We need equal development. And how we will do? With technology, with trust, and with common agendas. So new strategy planners in the world and new governance system need to understand their neighbors. If we will develop something in India, and if we will sell it to the Siberian region of Russia, and if logistic cost is very high, we cannot do that trade. I should search, if I am developing something in my country, I should search neighbor country to trade. So there we can get more equal chances to grow in trade. Similarly, in education, many students and many young generation like to go America only, and they invest crores and millions of rupees and their currencies. But what is the outcome? When they come back to their country, they don't have infrastructure, they don't have resources to do that kind of educational work practice which they learn in America. So if they are not having in Africa road to reach to the problematic people, what is the use of that education? What is the use of that investment? So my answer is that we should do global to local trainings, but global understandings and global equations are changing. That's why we should search local practices, and traditional development is more sustainable and more economic for our countries, for poor countries, Brics countries, global south countries, because we are in developing stage and we need more infrastructure, more resources. That is our need. So only by uniting our resources and our strategies we can develop. So answer is that we should unite first, and we should unite our resources. We should make new strategies according to digital age, because we can get more knowledge, more information from digital world and in digital age. And today we succeed because due to digitalization we all are connected, and we are discussing very important issue of Brics today, which is important in whole world, and Brics become magnet for whole world. And I hope Brics will really ignite the world and make new reforms for sustainable development goals. Thank you.
Absolutely, new reforms for sustainable development goal. We end the conversation with you, Mr. Kofi, from the African perspective. Of course, it is true that the leaders have been calling for a collective stance towards solving the major challenges facing the BRICS bloc. But then it's always good as an individual or as an entity to understand the dynamics to be able to sail through these very challenging moments with tactically. So the question is, in light of BRICS commitment to probably the global south, what specific diplomatic strategies can Africa, especially under the auspices of the institutional bloc, the AU, employ to maximize their influence, and practically how they can reflect to have a collective political voice towards issues of international concern having direct ramifications on the continent?
All right, thank you so much. I'm not going to talk plenty on this, your question, but I just want to say that first and foremost, let us strengthen our regional integration by enhancing our economic and political cooperation through organizations like the African Union, which is very, very key. It's very important for us to look at that from back then. And then also building capacity and investing in human capital, infrastructure, and institutions to enhance African global competitiveness, which is very key. And also promoting African representation, advocating for increased representation in international institutions like the BRICS and others. And then leveraging on the BRICS Africa cooperation by engaging with the BRICS nations on maybe areas like infrastructure, development, agriculture, climate change, industrialization, and all those things. And when we're able to do that, I think from African point of view, it will really help us, because the only key word is unity and a particular purpose, common purpose. And that is what is going to change the whole narrative. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Kofi, for your insight, ladies and gentlemen. I would love to thank you because we have come to the end of today's edition of your knowledge sharing and discursive program, Global Insider. And in a special way, we want to acknowledge the presence of Ashil Eke, an international financial expert who joined us this day from the United States of America, Pasika Faromali, UNISA academic and CPP member who joined from South Africa. Thank you, Pasika Faromali, for your insight. And Kofi Don Ago, president of the CCLG Africa Ghana EPA NAP project ambassador, who joined us live from Ghana, and also acknowledging Punima Anand, who is President Brics International Forum, and she joined us live from India. Thank you so much, lady and gentlemen, for the great insight. Hopefully, we are going to probably contribute on a quarter towards ensuring that the narratives of international relations do change for the betterment of all the nations, particularly nations of the global south. Without much ado, let's thank the technical crew for ensuring a smooth run of the program in spite of the challenges which we actually incurred. And to you, ladies and gentlemen, for trusting the Pan-African television, and also for ensuring trusting the Global Insight to be that platform where we actually promote constructive dialogue that aims to reduce the gaps, actually tinting or probably bringing a dark image to the principles of international relations. And it is on this note that I draw the curtains into today's edition of your program, Global Insight. Bye-bye, and do have a lovely moment.
Thank you, folks. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.